women's role in society was conscribed by a set of beliefs that made them dependent upon the masculine. But no one said why. But I'd like you to think about this for a moment. How did that come about, a society with complete male dominance? In India, from time immemorial, the masculine and the feminine have been celebrated, respected, honored, adored, worshipped, seen in a myriad of beautiful ways, and formed the basis of hundreds and hundreds of beautiful volumes of Vedic knowing and knowledge. This is the mother culture of mother. Namaste, and welcome to Vedic Vidya. My name is Jeffrey Armstrong, Kavindra Rishi. Vedic Vidya is available exclusively on Citti Media, English channel, Sunday nights, 7 p.m. IST. Our topic tonight is why 80% of yoga practitioners are women, and how it will change our future, or why the liberation of women led them to yoga. If you've been paying attention in the last 50 years, or doing your homework to catch up, not only has technology made a tremendous leap into what used to be science fiction, now is science, and now is what you're listening to as you're hearing this show. So some things have been changing at a blinding rate. Along with that, some social change has been happening that would not be talked about unless we were talking to someone from an indigenous culture, any of the First Nations cultures of the world, or the culture of India. Another way to say this is the largest indigenous culture alive in the world today and still remembering their ancestors is India. Not only the largest, but the oldest and the most articulate, and the one with a language, Sanskrit, that is the most perfect language. According to any etymologist, this is not me giving my opinion. This is the opinion of the most literate and profound etymological specialists throughout the world. There's only one language that is as close to perfection as a spoken language can get, and is the oldest language we currently know of, which goes back tens of thousands of years minimum, and that's Sanskrit. Now, yoga comes from the culture that produced that Sanskrit language. And I'd like you to think of the precision of Sanskrit as simply a way of ensuring that things that were said 10,000, 20,000 years ago are repeated correctly, clearly, and perfectly so they can be passed on as a legacy. In other words, if you understand the perfection of Sanskrit, you can understand that it is actually possible that things that were spoken literally 10,000 years ago could not have drifted in meaning even today, but could be precise. Why is that important to our conversation about why 80% of yoga practitioners are women? Well, the first is that yoga is one of those sciences that has been carried forward by Sanskrit. There are books precisely describing what yoga is. So it's not just some exercise club where people dress a certain way and go do exercises. It's not a gymnasium. It's not gymnastiko, the Greek. In fact, ironically, gymnastics was performed in the nude, a very different culture. That was males and females. But yoga is not gymnastics. We don't hear it recommended that you do it in the nude, best to wear clothing. And yet, yoga is trying to do something. The English word is liberation. The Sanskrit word is moksha. Moksha means to get free from the bondage of matter, because matter acts as a limitation. It conscribes us. It constrains us. It actually is the coating outside, on the outside of our consciousness, the Atma, which is on the inside. But what's this then got to do with women? Well, one obvious answer is that prior to the last 100 years, women's role in society was conscribed by a set of beliefs that made them dependent upon the masculine. But no one said why. Why did the Judeo-Christian tradition accidentally and sometimes on purpose subjugate the feminine to the masculine, almost as if the female couldn't actually have choice and will and autonomy of her own? In many cases, it wasn't almost. In recent years in the United States, the struggle has been for the liberation of women from being powerless in society, not being able to hold jobs, not being able to have money of their own, not being able to have autonomy, a variety of things that have just recently been given back to them. But I'd like you to think about this for a moment. How did that come about, a society with complete male dominance and no honoring of the feminine, aside from the specific societal ways, but were more polite than profound? And I'll give you the simple answer. It is that in most of the indigenous cultures, and in India for sure, top to bottom, any discussion of the supreme reality or supreme being depicts them as male and female. Think about that. Because in the traditions that have governed Western civilization and Middle Eastern civilization, let's just say for the last 1,000 years, there has been no discussion of Mrs. God. Occasionally, a few words in that direction, but nothing. Mary had a virgin birth, right. Sure, well, the Supreme Being can do anything. But this doesn't mean there's a male and female Supreme Being. But in India, this is the very basis of the entire civilization. There was not a reform movement at a certain point. And the women marched in the streets like they've done in America and said, we want our rights, we want our rights. Quite the contrary. In the Vedic civilization of India, that is the basis of yoga, there's male and female representations of the divine almost without exception. Some of the names you may hear are Shiva and Durga, Father and Mother Nature. You may hear Brahma and Saraswati, the male and female divine who are responsible for creating everything. You may hear of Vishnu and Lakshmi, again, a paired couple, two beings who are always connected, always united. If you'd like to say it in human terms, they never divorce. Vishnu and Lakshmi are the ones that keep everything balanced. Shiva and Durga are nature and recycling and entropy and everything that's changing in the downward way. And Brahma and Saraswati are the mother and father of all the creativity. They were the instrument of creating a whole universe. Think of them as artists, sculpting a whole universe. Beyond that, no longer thinking of matter, but going back to the very source of everything, the masculine and feminine divine also have names. And if you're interested, you can talk to any yogi who knows the Vedic knowledge, and they'll explain these various namings. Even the sun that we watch rise in the sky every day has two beings, Surya and Savitri, the masculine and feminine component. To say this differently, we have been missing in Western civilization and all the civilizations that led up to it, that all three of the Abrahamic religions have been missing the notion of a masculine and feminine in the divine, just as they've been missing the notion of a highly populated divine group of beings throughout the universe who make nature possible. So, women's liberation, that is to say, the acknowledgement that they are divine, and them having powers, them having the ability to do whatever they want to do in society, was being practiced for thousands of years in India and in the indigenous cultures. All of the indigenous cultures that I know in North America were female-centric, meaning the feminine was seen as the embodiment of the earth. Now, you need to think of something while I say this. Don't identify the person with their body. So if you're in a male or female body right now, or if you're a blend of the two in some way, shape, or form, that body is not you, that's just your vehicle. So some of the listeners are certifiably in agreement with being in a female body, and they're driving it wherever they go, just like a car. Same for the men, they're driving their body wherever they go, and for everyone who's a mixture of the two principles, it's the same thing. Once you decide how you want to drive that vehicle, it's still the same. You're the driver, you're not the vehicle. Now, this is one of the fundamental problems of our civilization. We don't know our car from the driver. In fact, in Sanskrit, the body is called the karana. Isn't that interesting? And the dream body, the one we go in at night, is called the anta karana, the other, the inner car, the one we drive in our dreams. Think of that as the dream body, and your consciousness is inside that dream body. Daytime body, 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, space. This body, this is your car, and you drive it around during the day and park it on the bed at night. That vehicle is no more you than the car that you drive to work or to the store. You don't say, I car, you say, my car. I bicycle, my bicycle. This is your bicycle, this is your car. So first of all, to most of the indigenous cultures, it was just common sense that the two cooperating was making life, the two energies, the two principles, however they did that. So they would acknowledge that masculine and that feminine. Now, in yoga, the principle of yoga is, first of all, to liberate everyone from the misconception that they are their body. Then it's to teach them how to work with it professionally, which means how to care for it, maintain it, how to breathe properly, how to make sure the life force is flowing past the joints and throughout the body. All of that is the beginning of yoga. Then comes your identity as the Atma, and then your relationship to all of the divine male and female beings that are behind nature as its animating principle. But in all those cases, the feminine is spoken of in yoga all the time. So just imagine what a missing vitamin that has been to all of the neglected females in Western civilization, because they're really persona non grata, to tell you the truth. The females in Islam and in Christianity have no theology, don't exist for any specific reason. Christianity made this, and no offense, it was Augustine who did this. It wasn't modern day Christians, so don't take offense. But so-called St. Augustine invented the story of Adam and Eve And in the inventing of that story, Eve is a rib. Eve is a bit player. Eve is not a primal being. And the supreme being is masculine. It's he. It's not they. It's not he and her. It's not he and she. So, what kind of role model is it to have male and female taking birth, and that's the car that they're in, and there's no explanation of the female car? I'm sorry, but there is no explanation. I was born a Christian. I know this. There was never a time in my entire Christian upbringing when I was told of the Christian feminine divine. And I know it's true in Islam, and there's a minimum of this in Judaism. After all, it is an aspect of the divine, the Shekinah, who comes down and lights the menorah on the Shabbat. The Judaic tradition has roots back in the masculine and feminine divine. But nobody has stood up in the middle of town and said that's the basis of life. And kudos to the feminine divine, Shiva, Durga, Brahma, Saraswati, Vishnu, Lakshmi, Krishna, Radha, Bhagavan, Bhagavati. This conversation has been taboo, as the saying goes, except in every indigenous culture where it was the basis of the culture. So, yoga, when it asks us to meditate upon the male and female divine. So you could say, to put it in simple terms, that as women were in the process of liberating themselves, as they were in the process of liberating themselves from there being no female role model in nature, when they saw yoga, they immediately saw that it was the validation of both masculine and feminine and everything in between. The everything in between is just because within nature, within matter, biology goes this way or that way according to genetics and circumstances. So we have yes, and we have undecided, or decided this way or that way. But in the divine, there have to be archetypes for both. So to say this very simply, there is no female archetype anywhere else, and certainly not in modern science. The liberation of women is the same as the term moksha. Liber means book. If you read enough books from enough viewpoints, you become wider in your mental understanding of everything. The moksha term means freedom from the bondage to just thinking you are matter and realizing that you're the consciousness. In yoga, both men and women practitioners see themselves as the Atma, and each see the form that they're wearing and driving as an aspect of the ultimate divine. This is the most complete worldview in existence on our planet. In India, from time immemorial, the masculine and the feminine have been celebrated, respected, honored, adored, worshipped, seen in a myriad of beautiful ways, and formed the basis of hundreds and hundreds of beautiful volumes of Vedic knowing and knowledge. This is the mother culture of mother. And honestly speaking, our earth right now is endangered by the rough, exploitive, colonizing technology that has ripped the human relationship to the planet to the point that it is now dangerous. Dangerous for our future. Dangerous for our very existence. And I, on behalf of the female positive culture of India, would propose to you that we need to let the women become not only empowered, not only equals, but as was the case with indigenous societies, they should become the guardians of the planet, just as they are the guardians of life. We men, we in male bodies, see how easy it is to identify, But truly, we who have masculine bodies, they who have feminine bodies, and they in between, we all need to have access to the divine masculine and feminine to truly be the best that we are. This vitamin has been missing, and so we saw women throughout the world naturally attracted to yoga in ways we don't even see for Ashtanga yoga in India. So this Ashtanga yoga has the just right balance of looking like exercise, but ending up teaching us a very important missing truth, that there is a mother and father divine, and that we should honor one another and them in such a way that they're both a part of our worldview, and their beauty and their qualities are the basis of our understanding of psychology, of one another. This is what has been missing. And naturally, the first to recover it were those in female forms. But all of us will benefit when the feminine voice of loving, caring Mother Earth is re-empowered and slows down our mad flight toward destruction and turns it into a long-term view of inhabiting Mata Bhumi, Mother Earth. Thanks for listening. Vedic Vidya means shining the light of truth. Tune in to Vedic Vidya on the Citti Media English channel Sunday nights at 7 p.m. IST. My name is Kavinder Rishi, Jeffrey Armstrong. See you next time, and have a namaste.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.